I'll just begin with a few announcements.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hi. Shabbat Shalom.
So we want to make sure that everybody on their way in has grabbed one of these prayer books. In addition to grabbing one of these prayer books, that they've grabbed one of these. If you haven't, you can find them up front. Daniel Garcia Pedroza, who's a member of our board, is passing out the prayer books. He's also our usher and can make sure everyone has what they need. So I'll give people just a minute to go grab what they need, and then I'll finish with the announcements afterwards. All right, so it looks like everyone's got. So as we continue, just a few more announcements. The first is if you need the bathrooms, they're outside to the right. If you need all gender or handicap accessible bathrooms, you can find them through the office. If you need large print prayer books, as you walk in, they're on your left. And hearing assisted devices are kind of right in the office there, on your right as you walk in. If for some reason today we need to find an emergency exit, of course you've got the exit you came in, but notice that there's an exit here, and if you look behind you, kind of through the back, you'll find that there's another exit. And finally, as we're praying together, the hope is that there are people who are more familiar and less familiar with our service. If you see someone who is lost, who's not sure what page they're on, where they are on the page, don't be shy about leaning over and pointing and showing them. That way we can all be on the same page, both literally and figuratively. And also for those who are new to Jewish services, most of our service, in fact, is going to be in Hebrew. But that doesn't mean that you can't hum along, and sometimes clapping your hands or a yababa or a bim bim bam is enough. So with that, we're going to begin. We're on page
220.
Exactly, page 220.
Part of our prayer book that we don't use that often is the afternoon of Shabbat, but very glad to open up to page 220 this morning,
Yes.
this evening, this afternoon.
And so we're going to begin just with a nod to this prayer, opening with that first line, Ashrei Yoshevei Beitecha, happy are you who dwell in the house. And then we're going to do a special ritual where Ryder is going to receive his talit for the very first time.
So we're going to start with these words, joyous, your turn.
Joyous.
Very good. Dwelling in your house.
Dwelling in your house.
Hope is in my heart. Try it.
Hope is in my heart.
Again, joyous, your turn.
Joyous.
Dwelling in your house.
Dwelling in your house.
Hope is in my heart.
Together.
Hope is in my heart. All right, we'll get back to that in a second. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha od Yehalelu Chasela. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha od Yehalelu Chasela. Joyous, here we go. Joyous with me. Dwelling in your house. Hope
is in my
heart. Joyous. Dwelling in your house. Hope is in my heart. One more time. Joyous, joyous. Dwelling in your house. Hope is in my heart. Joyous. Dwelling in your house. Hope is in my hope. So take in a joyous breath. Especially my friends in the back. I see you all back there. I love teenagers a lot. So sing and be with us in prayer, of course, but mostly just be here, filled with so much joy for a whole lot of reasons. Welcome. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. So before we pray the rest of this prayer, we're going to engage in a ritual where Ryder, for the very first time, is going to place on his shoulders a talit, a ritual garment that spells out all the values, all the rights, all the obligations of what it means to be a full-fledged adult member of the community. And the way that we do this is a little untraditional in our community because we're going to hold a giant tallis over his head and together kind of shower him and cover him in our love. And so I'm going to invite everybody, don't be shy, to come on forward as together we hold this tallis over his head and his grandfather, David Hyman, gives him the talit. So come on over. Everybody come stand up. Just be careful of the camera as you do.
Joyous. Joyous dwelling, hope is in a joyous dwelling. Ashrei Yoshvei, Ashrei Yoshvei Vetecha od Yehalelucha, od Yehalelucha. Selah, Selah, Selah.
So in a moment, you're going to receive, Ryder, a talit for the very first time, and you're going to say the prayer. And the talis which you're about to receive was actually your great-grandfather's, someone that you never met, but who's here with you today by virtue of the fact that you're wearing the same thing that he wore. And that's the amazing thing about the Jewish tradition. You're about to say a prayer that people have been saying for thousands of years. You're about to wear a garment that people have been wearing for thousands of years. And the fact that you're about to wear your great-grandfather's talis handed to you by your grandfather means all the more so that you're standing in the footsteps of some pretty amazing people who came before you. And so I'll invite you to place the talis on or your grandfather to put the talis on you and to say the blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidishanu bamitzvotav, lehitatef bat tzitzit.
Amen. We can head back to our seats.
Joyous, joyous dwelling, משנכנס אדר מרבים בשמחה, משנכנס אדר מרבים בשמחה. Joyous dwelling in your house, hope is in my heart. Joyous dwelling in your house, hope is in my heart.
We're on page 220, and I'll invite you to chant responsively with me as I chant each of these lines. Again, page 220. Ashrei Yoshvei Vetecha, od Yehalelucha Selah.
Ashrei Am Shekacha Lo, Ashrei Am Shadonai Elohav.
Tehillah LeDavid, Aroncha Elohai HaMelech, V'avarcha Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
V'chol Yam Avarcheka, V'lelah Shimcha Le'olam Va'ed.
Gadol Adonai Mula Me'od, V'ligdulato Ein Cheker.
דור דור ישבח מעשיך וגבורותיך יגידו,
Hadar Kevod Hodecha, V'divrei Niflotecha Asicha.
וזוזנותיך יאמרו וגדולתך אספחנה.
Zecher Rab Tuvecha Yabihu, V'tzidchatacha Yiranenu.
חנון ורחום אדוני, ערך אפיים וגדל חסד.
Tov Adonai Lakol, V'rachamav Al Kol Ma'asav.
יודוך אדוני כל מעשיך וחסידיך יברכוך.
Kevod Malchutecha Yomeru, V'uratacha Yedaberu.
להודיע לבני אדם גבורותיו וכבוד אדר מלכותו.
Malchutecha Malchut Kol Amim, U'memshaltecha B'chol Dor V'ador.
סומך אדוני לכל הנופלים וזוקף לכל הכפופים.
Einei Kol Elecha Yisaberu, V'atanohen Lahem Et Ochlam Be'ito.
פותח את ידיך ומשביע לכל חי רצון.
Tzadik Adonai B'chol Doracha, V'chasid B'chol Ma'asav.
קרוב אדוני לכל קוראיו, לכל אשר יקראו באמת.
Ritzon Yirei Yaseh, V'et Shavatam Yishma V'yoshiem.
שומר אדוני את כל אוהביו ואת כל השעים ישמיד.
Tilat Adonai Yedaber Pi, V'yivarech Kol Basar Shem Kodsho Le'olam Va'ed.
ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah.
We turn to page 226 and we rise together as we move into our Amidah.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך.
Together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Ve'Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם, בעזרת שרה.
Page 230.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכול, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל.
Page 232.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהייך ציון לדור ודור. הללויה, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גואלך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גאולך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך קדושתך נקדיש, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך קדושתך נקדיש. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גאולך, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גאולך. ושכח אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם, לעולם ועד. ושכח אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue in silence through page 242, and you can be seated when you're finished. We always end our silent prayer with a call for peace. And to read a special prayer for peace, I want to call up Ryder, your aunt, Lisa Sackman.
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country, that it may always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its border, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Blessed is the eternal God, the source of peace.
Amen. Thank you. So we get another moment to lift up our own peace prayer. This is somewhat of an anthem for our community at Ner Tamid, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, which means that the world is built with love, with loving kindness. Of course, an aspiration, because as we well know, you don't have to go far to realize that we're not building a world from chesed. Even if we want it, we have to do better. So this moment, I'd like you to just take in a couple of breaths, maybe to consider, what is my work? Olam Chesed Yibaneh, may I find in myself a path forward to bring my work, whatever my building work is, may I bring it for the good, for the love. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yarara Idai Idai Idai, Olam Chesed, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yarara Idai Yarara, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yarara Idai Yarara Idai Idai, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yarara. First we begin, I must build. I must build this world from love. Sing with me, and you must build. You must build this world from. You must build this world from love. And if we build this world, and if we build this world, if we build this world from love, then God will build, this world, will build this world from love. Once more. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Olam Chesed Yibaneh, Yararai, Yararai, Yararai,
We move now into Seder Kriyat HaTorah, into the reading of our Torah, which you can find on page 244. And as we do, just a few honors to give out. The first is to open up our ark. I want to call up Ryder's cousins, Slater and Truly Sackman, and to pass our Torah Lador Vador from generation to generation, his four grandparents, David and Ellen Hyman, Leslie and Barbara Kaplan, to pass the Torah to his parents, to Lauren and Doug, and then to him. We rise together, all of those who I mentioned, as we move into our Torah service.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam vad. Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Avarachamim etiv avitzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. Kivecha levad bataknu, melech eram v'nisa, Adon olamim.
That's our Torah Lador Vador from generation to generation.
Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, Udevar Adonai merushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti, uneromema Shemo Yagdav. Yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, 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 yai-dai, dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, dai-dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, 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 dai. Yai-dai, dai-dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, yai-dai, dai-dai, yai-dai, yai-dai,
We can all be seated. So I see that there's some candy going around. If you got the candy, it's not for eating now, it's actually for throwing later. What I'm gonna ask though, especially because this is a very crinkly wrapper, is that if you have candy, you take it, you put it in your pocket, you put it on the floor. That way we don't hear the crinkles throughout the course of our Torah service. In a moment, we're gonna call Ryder up, who is gonna become our teacher for this morning. In every generation, it becomes our sacred obligation, not just to read from this ancient text, but actually to wrestle with it, to make it meaningful. And Ryder picked a section of the portion that people don't often talk about, in part because it can often feel kind of dry. And he took it as a challenge upon himself to take what is a kind of a dry census and to really bring meaning into it. And I think you're going to be impressed with what you hear. And so it's my pleasure to call Ryder up to be our teacher this morning.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
My Torah portion is called Parashat Ki Tisa. It deals with many things, like the story of the golden calf, but I chose to concentrate on one section that jumped out to me. In my portion, God tells Moses to have each of the Israelites pay half a shekel for the maintenance of the tabernacle, which is the tent the Israelites use as a portable temple. In addition, Moses uses the money to count how many Israelites there would be for the army. He would add up the money, and that would keep him from actually counting the people, because it was viewed as bad luck in the Israelite culture to count someone. Counting would bring them curses and bad luck. As I read the section, something jumped out at me: the fact that no matter how much money someone had, they had to pay the same amount. My question is, why did God decide to do this and not ask for the money in a different way that was fair for everyone? There are many arguments for why we shouldn't have to pay the same thing. Someone who has a lot of money wouldn't feel the half shekel as much, but someone who has little would feel it more. This is a problem today, and it is true of tolls, sales tax, and gas tax. These taxes can affect people differently based on how much money they have. But this isn't the only way we can tax people. Other ways to tax people are decided based on how much money their income is and how much money they have. God could have had the Israelites pay a certain percentage of their net worth, or pay based on how much they would use the tabernacle. Or they could ask for donations and the people give what they wanted. At all times in Jewish history, these options were used. However, each of these methods has their own problem. If you give based on a percentage, it may not help you count people in the same way the half shekel did. It also means people are giving more money than others, which means they may want more credit and power. And in the case of people giving whatever they want, the problem there is that some people give nothing and you might not have enough. There are advantages to the half shekel. First, you know how many people there are, so you have an idea of how much money is coming in. It also makes everyone equal in how much work they did to raise the money, so no one can say, I did more. Today, we don't have the half shekel donation anymore, but we can ask the question, how do we make everyone feel equally important and valuable? Feeling valued is important in every area of life. It is important because if a person feels more confident and that they matter, they will try to do new things and take risks. They are also more likely to give back to the community because they feel like they belong. In my life, I've been a part of communities that have really made everyone feel like they belong. For example, I've had teachers in school who understood the importance of connecting with their students. One teacher would always make sure that everyone had a chance to answer questions and would make sure that everyone's ideas were heard and listened to. Because she did this, it made us feel important and that she cared about us. I've also felt the opposite. Not every teacher is this good. One teacher I have did not answer the questions our class had, and whenever we had problems with something in the class, she made it into her fault and our fault and not hers. This made the classroom into a very stressful place and not a good learning experience for me and my classmates. We felt like guests in her classroom rather than it was ours. We didn't feel like we belonged or that she cared about us. I want to encourage everyone to be like the first teacher I mentioned. Try to include everyone and make sure everyone feels like they are important and that their opinions are valued. Some ways you can do this is by inviting someone to do something with you, if you notice they don't have any friends, or volunteering to do something with them when no one else will. You can also listen to their ideas and talk about them with them later so they know someone was listening to them. Everyone has something to offer. Some people will add more kindness to community. Some people will help those who don't feel valued. Some will add humor. Some will do something with someone when no one else will. Some will help those who don't understand something. Some are leaders. Some are followers. But everyone has an important role to play. If you take anyone out, the entire group is affected. My Torah portion teaches that lesson with the half shekel. So we should remember that everyone is valued and that everyone has an important role to play. Shabbat Shalom.
So I'm going to get a chance to respond to this really thoughtful teaching that you gave us. But for now, why don't you take a brief moment, a seat, because we're actually going to call your sister up to be our first reader this afternoon. And for the Aliyah, when your sister goes, we're going to call up David and Ellen Hyman, Barbara and Leslie Kaplan again. Ya'amdu, David ben Mordechai ve'Rachel, Elka bat Label ve'Masha, Esther bat Helen ve'Emmanuel, Label ben Sarah ve'Abraham la'aliyah la'Torah. And to read the English, your uncle Joel Sackman.
Okay. Baruch et Adonai HaBarach. Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bacha banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, ki tisa et rosh b'nei Yisrael, likudehem v'natenu ish kofer nafsho, l'Adonai vivkod otam, v'lo yiyeh vahem negef vivkod otam. Zeh yitnu kol ha'over al hapakodim, malchazit hashekel v'shekel hakodesh, ezrim gera hashekel, malchazit hashekel, teruma l'Adonai.
Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, when you take a census of the Israelite men according to their army enrollment, each shall pay Adonai a ransom for himself on being enrolled, that no plague may come upon them through their being enrolled. This is what everyone who is enrolled in the records shall pay: a half shekel by sanctuary weight, 20 geras to the shekel, a half shekel as an offering to Adonai.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. I'll take a seat. And so, in a moment, we're going to call Ryder up to receive for the duration of the service a yad, a ritual pointer that we use to actually read Torah. And it's our custom in our congregation that the first aliyah is usually chanted by a member of our congregation. Now it happens that the member of our congregation who's going to hand ceremonially Ryder the yad to say welcome to the cadre of Torah readers is his older sister. And I do want to point out something that seems just obvious to me, but may not be obvious to so many of you. This is a big deal, Ryder's Day, but Lola really chanted Torah to a half-empty sanctuary when it was her turn for her bat mitzvah. It was really in the midst of the pandemic. And so when we say the Shechianu later for all of the hard work that Ryder did, I want to save just a little piece of that blessing for the fact that you got to chant Torah in front of your loved ones in person, so many, which is really wonderful. And so Ryder, I want to call you up.
Misha Bera Avotenu Vimotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors by giving them the Torah, Biad Moshe, bless our newest teacher. Holy One of blessing, as I pass this yad the way it was passed to me, I ask that you attach his heart to your name and guide him in your truth to be engaged in the performance of your mitzvot and study of your Torah. And let us say Amen.
Amen. All right. So with you up here, we're going to call your parents up now, and your sister actually is going to stay up. Ya Amdu, Fredo Rachel, Bat Esther, Velabel, Avram David, Ben David, Ve'elka, Merav Sarah, Bat Fredo Rachel, Ve'avram David, La'aliyah La Torah.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Kol ha'over al ha'pekudim mi ben esrim shana v'mala itain terumat Adonai העשיר לא ירבה, ולדל לא ימית ממחצית השקל, לתת את תרומת אדוני לכפר על נפשותיהם, ולקטע את כסף הכיפורים מאת בני ישראל, ונתת אותו על עבודת אוהל מועד וחיה לפני ישראל לזיכרון לפני אדוני לכפר על נפשותיהם.
Everyone who's entered in the records from the age of 20 years up shall give Adonai's offering. The rich shall not pay more, and the poor shall not pay less than half a shekel when giving Adonai's offering as expiation for your persons. You shall take the expiation money from the Israelites and assign it to the service of the tent of meeting. It shall serve the Israelites as a reminder before Adonai as expiation for your persons.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Stay up. Because now, surrounded by your family, Ryder, we're going to call you formally as bar mitzvah. And before we do that, I just want to call David Hyman back up, who's going to read the English after you go. Ya'amod, 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 Bram Roen ben Fredo Rachel ve'Avram David la'alei ala Torah, Chazak ve'amatz.
Baruch et Adonai hamivorah.
Baruch Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamivorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu Torah et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Vayedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor v'asiyita ki yor nehoshet v'chano nehoshet le'ratzah v'natata oto vein ohel moedu vein hamizbeach v'natata shama mayim v'net ratzu Aaron uvanav v'menu et yidehem ve'et raglehem.
Adonai spoke to Moses, saying, "Make a laver of copper and a stand of copper for it for washing, and place it between the tent of meeting and the altar. Put water in it, and let Aaron and his sons wash their hands and feet in water drawn from it."
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan v'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Now we get to join the whole family in the blessing for joyous first. We can join them. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Siman tov, mazil tov, siman tov, mazil tov, siman tov, siman tov, Yehelanu.
All right, now that we've thrown all of that, I'm going to ask everybody come grab some. Feel free to come grab some to eat. Just watch the camera as you do.
Yehelanu, Yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, ulechol Yisrael. That was really fast.
Yes.
That candy came
Let's
up.
make sure to share with other people, and we're going to
fast.
ask that you wait to eat until you leave the sanctuary.
Nice.
Stay there. Your parents are going to say some words to you. So as you head back to your seats, and we really, really messed up this camera. It'll be a little crooked. We're going to invite your parents up to say some special words for you.
Ryder, we are so proud of you. You've worked so hard to get ready for your bar mitzvah over the past many months. We know it was not always easy, and learning Hebrew in only 7 months is a huge accomplishment for any 13-year-old, especially one with a hearing loss, but you did it. You are creative, intelligent, passionate, and a stellar negotiator. Those are amazing qualities, and we have seen how they have pushed you to try new things, advocate for what you want, and pursue your interests. We have a few wishes for you on this special day. 1, always stay true to yourself. One of your best qualities is your ability to not worry about what others think of you. This is so rare for a 13-year-old. Most kids your age want to dress like everyone else, not draw attention to themselves, and are unsure who they are, what they like, and what they don't like. Since you were born, you have marched to the beat of your own drum. This is a special quality, and we hope you will continue to embrace your differences and celebrate your individuality. 2, always demonstrate empathy and kindness towards others. You have a strong sense of fairness and a strive to be an upstander. Remember to always be kind, even when others aren't. Try to include people who are easily left out, and think about how your words and actions affect others. As you discussed in your Devar Torah, always try to make other people feel valued and cared about.
We hope you have family and friends throughout your life who love and appreciate you for who you are, honor your values, and are there when you need them. In this room today, you're lucky enough to be surrounded by many family members, including grandparents, many aunts and uncles, cousins, and also many friends. We hope you will work to keep and grow your connections with all of them, especially Lola. We know you don't always get along, but we hope you will come to realize the importance of a strong, meaningful, and unconditional relationship with your sister. 4, grow, change, and reflect. Things won't always go your way, sometimes for reasons that you can't control. When challenges come, face them head on. When you fail, and even when you succeed, we hope you think about what went wrong, what went right, and what you would do differently the next time. Wisdom has been described as intelligence meeting experience and flexibility. It takes time and effort. Bruce Banner needed years to channel his rage and become the smart Hulk. Don't always smash. Be curious, not judgmental. Be interested in everything. Explore, try, take risks, and be adventurous. You have tremendous interest in politics and world events. Continue to study them, but don't just sit back and watch. Make a difference, help other people. And finally, have a sense of humor. You're going to need it. We love you. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
You can all take a seat. And now with our Torah out before us, we think of those who are ill and who are in need of healing, who are in need of a refuah shlema, complete healing of body, mind, soul, and spirit. And so I'll invite us to turn to that special prayer for healing, which you can find on page 253. And as my eyes go around the room, I'll invite you to share names of people for whom you're thinking. Mi sheberach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mikor habracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. I'm going to invite us to rise as we prepare to lift and dress our Torah, and to lift and dress that Torah, I want to call up David, Rachel, Jacob, Zachary, and Matthew Newmark.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. Yiramayam, 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 Umero, Yiramayam, 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 Umelo, Yai, Yalai, Lai, Lai, Yai, Lai, Lai, Yalai, Lai, 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 Yai, Lai, Lai, Yalai, Lai, 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 Yai, Lai, We remain standing. I'm going to call up Ryder's aunt and cousin, Emily and Daisy Dodge, to open up our ark as we return our Torah. וכל ניבטיה שלום. הושיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה חדש ימינו כקדם. Yesher koach, Ryder. Amazing. Beautiful chanting, beautiful teaching. And it's my job every single Shabbat to build off the teaching of our students. And so you brought up this really interesting point where you raised this question, which is, was it actually fair for every single person to give the same amount? And why is it that when we were meant to count the people, we did it in such a way that we had to give charity in order to do that? And you unpacked the different kinds of charity, right? The charity or payment, right? Because you talked about taxes too, where everybody pays the same thing, like gas tax or sales tax. You talked about the idea that maybe tax should be based around how much you made, and it should be everybody pays the same percent, but the actual amount is different. You talked about usage, whether or not you use the tabernacle more or less, that's why you should pay. But I want to get into this other question that you really just glanced over for a split second and kind of make a fine point on one of the points that you made, which is, why is it that we couldn't just literally count the people? Why couldn't we, for example, just say to the people, all right, line up, right? Now, granted, there were 600,000 of them, but line up and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going to count you. Or why couldn't we say to the individual chieftains, you count your people, and you count your people, and you count your people, and then over the course of time, you'll come together, we'll add them, and then we'll figure out how many we have. Why did we have to do this weird roundabout thing where everybody gave a half shekel, right? Think of it like giving $20.
And then we counted the money that came in to count the people. And classically, there's a number of answers to why it is that Jews just don't count each other. But it's actually, in our tradition, bad luck. If you've ever been to a traditional minyan, now you probably know this if you're Jewish, you have to have at least 10 people in order to pray certain prayers. You have to have 10 people in order to read from that book, the Torah. And if you don't, if you've got 8, if you've got 9, if you've got 7, you just can't do it. And so when you're in a group and you're trying to figure out whether you have 10, you might have heard people do this. You actually go not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, so that you're actually not counting people. Because it's kind of a curse. It's considered bad luck to count. And as I mentioned, there's a number of answers to why that is. It might just be an old wives' tale. It might just be superstition, and superstition lives on in a number of ways, right? I know, for example, older people who, are very careful to pick up nail clippings because of some kind of Hungarian, old Eastern European thing that if you step on nail clippings, it's considered very bad luck, right? Judaism is 3,000 years old. It's got 3,000 years of baggage and weirdness associated with it. And depending on what part of the world you live in, that just might be the case. But there's others too. We're told, by the way, that when Abraham, the first Jewish person, gets blessed by God, God says to Abraham, you are going to be so numerous that we cannot count you. We are going to be like the sands of the seas and the stars of the sky. And so maybe the idea of trying to count Jews undercuts the fact that the promise to the Jewish people is that we are going to be a nation that cannot be counted. But there's another answer, and this, by the way, is my favorite answer in the tradition, which is Moses and the other chieftains actually received the money from every single person, which meant that unlike a census where you fill out a form on a piece of paper, if everybody gave their half shekel, that meant that Moses and the other leaders had to accept it, had to look them in the eye, had to say welcome, had to say you belong, had to say thank you. And there's something to be said about the fact that leaders need to know the people for which they lead. And the people who give that money, they need to feel like it's actually going to someone who loves and who cares about them. Now that, by the way, is not always easy to do. I often talk about the fact that, a good president of the United States loves me insofar as he loves Americans, but he doesn't love me because he doesn't know me. And one of the kind of deep questions about God, for example, in the tradition is God capable of loving us more than just loving humanity? Or does God know and care about us as individuals because there's so many of us to know and to love? But somehow in the course of giving this charity, in the course of giving this half shekel, supposedly someone knew you, someone cared about you, someone smiled at you. Something, by the way, that's very hard to do. I try very hard to know the 540 families in my congregation. And I'm proud about the fact that I actually think I do better on average than most rabbis do in knowing the names of these 540 families. But that amounts to like between 1,500 and 1,800 distinct individuals. It's a lot of people to know. And so sometimes I fall short as a rabbi, or sometimes I haven't gotten there yet. If someone has been a member for a year, I haven't caught up yet to meet them and really get to know their names. But yet, having meaningful interactions, being able to greet people in the way that Moses did, makes them not feel like a number. It makes them feel like a person. It makes them feel like they matter. And the goal of any community is to figure out how to make people matter, to make people understand that when they hand that half shekel, both physically and metaphorically, the leaders in their community are glad that they are there, are excited that they are there, understand that they are there. 600,000 Jews stood at Mount Sinai. And so we're told that when we see a large group of people, 600,000, but we can make it even less if we want, there's a special blessing that we're supposed to say for those people. And the blessing we're supposed to say is Baruch Atah Adonai Hacham Harazim. Blessed are you, God, the knower of secrets. Because until you introduce yourself, until you make your own passions, your own gifts, your own desires, that essence of who you are known to other people, it is a secret. And only God knows that. The goal is to create a society where people let go of those things, right? You're always going to have things that remain private, and privacy is a Jewish virtue. But more than anything else, our goal is to begin to unpack, to make known what people care about, who they are, why they matter, and to begin to form connections. Could you imagine a world where Moses gets handed a half shekel and says to the person, so tell me, who are you? And that person says, I just heard this most amazing music that somebody in my camp was making. And Moses was able to say, that's so funny because 2 people ago, I just got a shekel from someone who also equally loves music. Let's hold on for a second. I'm going to introduce you to that person, and you're going to form a bond. You're going to care about each other just a little bit more than you did before. And that is, by the way, value added of Jewish community. It's value added of religious community writ large. I was often kind of remarking that when we have a speaker, the difference between a synagogue and let's say like the 92nd Street Y or some other place that puts on amazing speakers is that the goal of going to one of those institutions, one of those establishments, is the actual program itself. You come in, and it's a success if you heard the music well, if you heard the speaker well. A success in a synagogue is if you did those things, but care about the person you were sitting next to just a little bit more than when you came. And that's the vision here, and that's the vision of all religious communities. In fact, someone was telling me the other day, I'm a parent of a 2- and 4-year-old, and a friend of ours who also sends their kids to Jewish preschool was saying that the reason she chose Jewish preschool is not necessarily because we give the best education, though I think we do give a particularly good education. It's because we make it our mission to make sure that the other parents in the class meet each other and that they make friends, because we are investing in relationships that we hope pay off down the line. Kind of like Ryder, you've got a number of people that your parents know through the synagogue who are sitting here right now, who they met and hopefully will be lifelong friends to them in the same way that hopefully you have lifelong friendships. And that is the essence of any community. Number 1, to make people feel like they matter. Number 2, to get to know why they matter. And number 3, to introduce people who are going to care about what they matter about. And so I don't know whether you belong to a synagogue or not. I don't know whether you're Jewish or not. But I want to tell you that those 3 things need to be central points in your own life too. You need to care about individuals more than you care about numbers. You need to help those around you understand that they matter. And your goal is to be a connector, because too many of us live a lonely life, a life just like God remarked after making the first human being, that it is not good for us to live alone. Therefore, we need helpmates. We need people who can see within us those secret gifts that we have, to love them, to embrace them, and to bring them out. And if you can do that, if you can remark on what makes the person around you special, they're going to live their life knowing that they matter too. That they, in our tradition, have a retinue of angels walking before them, saying, make way for the image of God. Make way for the image of God. And so, Ryder, I want to call you up to the bima now. Because just like everyone here, you got a lot of wonderful gifts. And I love getting to know you over the course of this process of writing the Devar Torah with you and hearing what you're interested in, getting a sense of your personality. And one of the things that, one particular gift that you have is your ability to think on your feet. So often I would ask students questions when I'm working with them on their Devar Torah. I'd say, hey, do you have an example of X or Y? Hey, do you have any thoughts on how to word this particular line that we're about to add? And a lot of students get tentative. A lot of students say, I got to think about it. I'm not quite sure. They start and then they stop. But you have this ability to just free flow with ideas, this ability to think on your feet, and not only to be thoughtful, but to be coherent, to be eloquent. And it was a pleasure to write your Devar Torah with you because you have that. Now, that's just one of your many gifts, but that's a gift that's going to help you when you're in conversation with people and they ask you what you think about a topic. It's going to help you when you raise your hand in class, being maybe that first one to have a thought to get a conversation going. It's going to help you in the workplace someday when someone is looking for someone to have just an idea that comes to them quickly. And because you are quick on your feet, because you're willing to say what's on your mind, it means that you give other people that permission too. I've seen that in you, and you'll foster that in other people. And the goal is to just learn to love your gifts, right? I ended by saying that we're all created in God's image, that we've got this retinue of angels walking before us saying, make way for the image of God. And intelligence, thoughtfulness, compassion, all of those that you have in droves are all, according to our tradition, a nod to the kind of divine compassion and intelligence and thoughtfulness that exists in the world. Love yourself for the gifts that you have, because Ryder, there are many, and all of us are excited to learn from you and grow from you as you share those gifts with them. So with that, we're going to offer you a blessing, the oldest blessing that we have to give in the Jewish tradition, the priestly benediction. So I want to call Cantor Greenberg up and our clergy associate, Ronnie Pressman. And I'm going to invite everybody to take their hands and to put them in the air as we bless you too. And I do want to make special mention of Kara, who is your tutor, who was here, who helped really prepare you for today. And her blessing also, her hands are high as well as she blesses you now. May God bless you, and may God protect you. May God cause God's face to shine upon you and give you grace. May God always smile upon you and grant you a life of wholeness and peace.
May it be God's will, and let us all say Amen.
So we're going to have you stay up here for one more moment, because we always have a greeting from a member of our board. And today we're going to call up Sarah Larson, a member of our board, but also a dear family friend, to offer you your gifts and a few greetings.
Ryder, I have known you since you were in literally a baby carrier, so it is an extra special honor for me to be here and sharing this special day with you and your family and your friends. You just did an amazing job, and I loved your message of inclusivity and kindness. I know your parents well, and clearly the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Today is just the first day of your life as an adult Jew. So on behalf of the community of Temple near Tamid, I'd like to present you with a few gifts that are going to help you along your journey. One of them is a Kiddush cup that you're going to get to use in just a few minutes. So here you are, and Mazel Tov. Good job.
We're going to rise together, page 282 for Elena.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu kamishvachot adama, shelo samchelkenu kahem, vegoralenu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nemar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, ushemo echad.
We remain standing as our thoughts go out to those that we have loved and who we've lost. We're on page 294. And as my eyes go around the room, I'll invite you to share names of people for whom you're thinking.
Vera Olam.
We join together. Yitgadav yitgadash shemei Rabbah. Bi'amad divrach yirutei v'yamichmar chutei. V'chayachon u'vyomechon u'v'chayit uchol Beit Yisrael. B'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach yitpa'ar v'yitnomam v'yitnasev v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal l'shemei d'kedusha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushvechata v'nechemata da'amiram v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehi shalom Rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Amen.
We're seated together. And in a moment, we're going to engage in a ritual that says goodbye to Shabbat. It's called Havdalah. We'll bring our lights low and we'll invite everybody to sing and to join along. And Ryder, we're going to invite you up to the bima now to help us lead that as you lift our cups and spices and candle. And so as we're getting ready, as we're turning off the lights, just a quick note about exactly what Havdalah is. So we began Shabbat with 2 candles. Instead, we've got a braided candle, those 2 candles coming together. We began Shabbat with a cup of wine, and again, we leave Shabbat with a cup of wine. And we began Shabbat with sustenance, with a challah, braided bread that we eat each Friday night. But instead, what we are going to do is we're going to say goodbye to Shabbat with spiritual sustenance, with spices. And so if you want to follow along, we're on page 308 as we join together in these words.
First over the wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei peri agafen. Borei peri agafen. Borei peri agafen. La ira ira la 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 ira 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 la 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 ira. Ya la la ira 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 ya la la ya ya ira ya la 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 ira ya ya ira la 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 ya la 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 ira 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 ya la la ira ya la la ya. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei minei v'samim. Borei minei v'samim. Borei minei v'samim. Ya ira ya la 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 ira la ira la 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 ira ya la la ira 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 ya la la ya la la ira 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 la la ira ira ya la ira ira ya la la ira 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 ya la la. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Borei meorei Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechoshech ben Yisrael amim ben yom hashvi'i לששת ימי המעשה. ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לחול, המבדיל בין קודש לחול, חטאותינו ימחול, זרענו וכספנו ירבה כחול, והכוכבים בלילה. שבוע טוב, 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 which means have a good week. So Shavua Tov. And then we sing one more prayer. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimera Biyamenu, Yavo Eleinu. Moshiach ben David, Moshiach ben David. Lai, lai, la, la, lai, 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 lai. Ya, lai, ya, la, lai, lai, lai. Ya, ra, ra, lai, lai. Ya, lai, lai. Shavua Tov, everybody.
Shavua Tov.
Hey,
Enjoy the rest